Good morning. My name is Donna Mosier, and I've been on the Bioneers Executive Committee, and I'm a member of the board of Blackwood Educational Land Institute. And I want to take you all back to this time last year. Don't you remember how dry it was? We had a devastating year of drought. And what an amazing year we had this year. And I think we've all felt an incredible amount of gratitude. Every time it rained, I don't know about you guys, it's just like, let it rain. We have no compunction about being in the rain anymore after last year. Last year was a desperate year for all of us, and I live up in Montgomery County, but I certainly when I'm in Houston and I see Memorial Park, I know it was, of course, probably even harder on Houston here. But you know, while we were going through that, what I think is also the spirit of Bioneers, I tried to find what kind of good there might be in a devastating environmental condition like that. And I think that for us, we understand and appreciate water, and we understand the crisis that the planet is facing, but most people didn't. And I think that most people in Texas have a real idea of how precious this resource is. For us in Montgomery County, we have an additional issue of a company trying to develop some wells to dump toxic waste in, and I think that got those people wide awake to say, my goodness, our water supply is threatened. It's going to threaten the aquifer that provides water not only for Montgomery County, but for this whole southeast region. At any rate, I think we just appreciate water more. But you know, in talking to our next people, one of the things I learned in researching this talk, or how to introduce them for you, I learned that millions of people don't have clean water to drink. We certainly are very, lucky in that regard. But more than 2 billion people actually have to defecate outside, and billions are not able to wash their hands because they don't have enough water or soap. 5,000 children under the age of 6 will die every day from water-related illness until we do something about it. Well, Mark Illian is doing something about it. Mark is a father and an engineer turned social entrepreneur. He's working with governments, international organizations, and community leaders to facilitate behavioral changes that empower the poorest of the poor to attain healthier lives. His nonprofit organization, Nature Healing Nature, is making a difference by empowering people throughout the world to clean their water with materials and skills they already have. They show people how to clean their own water and build safe, dignified latrines out of materials that they can find in nature within a mile of where they're standing, using skills that they are already familiar with. Nature Healing Nature, thanks to the efforts of Mark Illian, is empowering people to help themselves and develop healthy, clean water resources. And I'm really proud to introduce my friend Mark Illian to speak to you now.
And I want to make the first demonstration using you all. Everybody stand up for just a minute. Thank you. Now, what do visualize the world? What, 7,000 years ago? Those of you creationists would be about 5,000. And you're going to the bathroom outside, or in the back of the cave someplace, and you're drinking water. Where you get your water from? Some pond or river or lake, gourd, and you're carrying it home, right? Wherever you live, you can go up there and get it like that. Well, now we come to today, all right? And so let's take sanitation, people that are still pooping outside. So with that, I want this half of the room to sit down. They're privileged. They've got all this. And I want you 3 people to sit down. They do too. And in the world, all of you people still defecate outside. Nothing's changed. And now I want you folks to sit down over here. All of you people go fetch your water every day. And you're drinking water that's going to make you sick. And about 15 to 20% of your children are going to die before the age of 5 because of water-related illnesses. That's just 5,000 children a day down to around 4,700, which is about a jumbo jet full of kids every hour. Crash. And so it's something that we don't know. We won't sit down. Thanks a lot. It turns out, in my engineering background, I learned a whole lot of things in college and went out into industry, learned a whole lot about water and cooking, et cetera. And I started getting involved in Native American studies, so we learned a whole lot about how they do water, et cetera. Well, I was going to do a website for farmers to get rid of the hydrogen sulfide smell, that rotten water smell, so they didn't have to do that. It's really easy to do, all you have to do is air it, that's it. Anyway, when I was doing that, so that's when I found out some of these statistics, and that's when it hit me, that I didn't have a choice anymore. I had to do this. It's just one of these things that you know that you can, and you're wondering why am I collecting all these things all these years, and it hits you like a ton of bricks that you just can't avoid it, you have to do it. And each one of you've got that same thing. There's some kind of talent or something that drives you. Most of you are probably doing it, although sometimes when I feel it, it's that passion that may have left, but you still have it there. You're creating something unique. I'm creating something unique. And thank God you all are doing your thing, creating something unique. Because I don't have this anymore. I'll go to my stuff and we can do it. But finding the passion there is, and keeping that passion would be something we all want to do. I get that. When I get out of town, it's glorious, and I like leaving Houston and going to some places I want to show you. Listen, this young lady's in Lomé, Togo. She's carrying her water about 1 kilometer, right? That's from about here to the other side of San Felipe. She does that every day. She's not in school. This is school day. That's what she has to do before she gets to go to school. That's about 5 gallons. She's got about 4 in there, which means it's 32 pounds. It's a lot of water. And so it's probably about a little more than half her body weight that she carries home daily. That's her job. Okay, next slide. This is 2012, UNICEF. Pneumonia, diarrhea, #1 killers, all children on Earth. Okay, mostly developing countries. The countries where Monica and I go and work are somewhere around 60 to 225 children per 1,000 would die by the age of 5. And in the United States, it's 6. In Denmark, it's 2 per 1,000. To give you an idea of how many children are dying. But they're just now finding out just how severe the problem is, because they didn't know why these kids were dying. They just died. They were buried out in the middle of nowhere. These are waterborne illnesses. Now, the only difference between water-related and waterborne means this is actually in the water that you're going to drink. All right, you can see all these things on here, right there. Water-related illnesses are things that you're sick, but not necessarily because of the water, but perhaps a lack of it to wash your hands. Pneumonia, for example, would be a water-related illness because of hygiene issues. Okay? Cholera happens to be both. We'll talk about it in a second. Go ahead, next slide, please. And I'm not going to go through all this. You see the color. Most of this over here is neonates and kids that are less than 1. But for the rest of diarrhea and pneumonia, that's the death rate of what's killing kids. And the other things that are on here are like meningitis, I don't know, whooping cough might be out there someplace, hepatitis, measles, malaria. Malaria is the biggie. Monica and I both had malaria a couple of times. There's 3 kinds of malaria. One of them you don't want. It goes into your brain and stays there. You don't get rid of it. But the other 2 you get through it. You go to any doctor, any place. Go to the pharmacist when you're out in these countries. Walk in here. Within 24 hours, you're fine. Within 3 days, you're cured. Except for the 3rd kind, which is coming up and they can't cure it. There's more and more of it showing up at the tide, Cambodia border. Next slide, please. How many are dying? This is kind of a confusing slide, but let's look over here. You've got about 1.4 million from pneumonia, diarrhea, about 0.8 million. And sub-Saharan Africa is the biggest, and then
South Asia falls after that. So that's where most of the deaths are. And I'll show you what happens though when you get diarrhea. There's this vicious circle. When you got a little kid, it's just been born, you give him some water and it's dirty. He doesn't have an immune system, so he gets diarrhea, or she. When they do that, they're losing nutrients crazy from their body. They're especially losing micronutrients. They get flushed out, so they're not staying in their body. And consequently, you get something called underweightedness, which is chronic. You're just underweight, period. It's a slow form of starvation. The other one is stunting. Now, stunting is when you grow up now, and your bones aren't growing, the rest of your body's not growing, so you're actually shorter than you should be, which is a lot of reason why you go to the countries where there's problems and the people aren't real tall. And then you have wasting. Wasting is acute. That means you've gotten sick or you're starving to death and your body's wasting. I mean, that's the little emaciated kids that you see in the pictures and stuff like that. And I want to make something clear here. Mike and I don't go to relief camps where people are starving. You'll see a picture of them. Where we're going to is where people are just fine and happy. They're okay. It's part of their life that some of their kids die. And they live a lot with diarrhea and pneumonia. But they're not moping around. They're not lethargic, laying there with their eyes rolled back with flies going everywhere. Most of the world, all these people I'm talking about over here, they're happy folks. They're working there 6 days a week, at least, out in the fields, feeding themselves. They're very honorable and proud people. Next slide, please. So when you, on that last slide, when you have diarrhea, you're more subject to the stunting and the mental problems. You don't think as well when you finally do get to school. Okay, so there's all kinds of connotations. A word about cholera. When we were in Haiti, that was really a bad earthquake. I mean, you go into cities that had an earthquake, like Alaska in '68, stuff like that, and there's a lot of buildings that are level. Port-au-Prince, they were on the ground. Or we turned down Main Street, and it was probably a minute or two before I realized every building that I could see still is. Your brain just doesn't want to cope with that when you see it. You just don't, it doesn't register because it's just so, oh my gosh, all those buildings. So there's too many people sleeping out night, every night, including us in the tent for 2 months, because you couldn't go to the buildings because they were still collapsing from the aftershocks. And so everybody was outside. It was fun to see the dynamics of being outside because people have to have their space. And so we would be able to see people with the street, and they would have stones around them. And that was their sleeping space that night. And then during the day, they those stones and put it back. And lots of stones were there around at that time. Next slide, please. Oh, by the way, cholera does not kill you. Okay? Cholera causes diarrhea, severe diarrhea. So severe that your blood gets so thick that it doesn't pump. And when that happens, you're gasping. So the people actually look like they're asphyxiated, which they are when they're dying, because they've lost so much body fluid. Well, next slide, please. It's very easy to fix. I'm going to let you look at that just for a second. Notice the health money's going up, but look at the money for water and sanitation. 80% of the beds in the developing country hospitals and clinics, 80% are filled with people with water-related illness, which is water, sanitation, and hygiene. Next slide, please. These are the areas, very quickly. Improved drinking water means that you might have to walk a long ways, but you're getting water out of something other than a pond or a stream. Does not mean it's treated water. You're also getting it out of a well, and the well is situated so that it doesn't have a lot of mud around it. It's got a skirt of cement. Lots of people put in wells all over the world, but sometimes they're not improved. They also do not count people with improved water. They just go out and they try to find out if they've got a well. If they do, then statistically, everybody there has got clean water. So the numbers are actually much worse than we have. It's purely an estimate that we're using right now. Next slide, please. Sanitation. Anything that's not dark green is a problem area. Now, look at Chile and even Peru over here. There's a lot of connotation to not having good sanitation. So there's also underreporting in many countries that don't show up on here because there's that connotation. Kind of like when you're going to have a Olympics in your country, it makes that look just right. Next slide, please. Pretty self-explanatory, right? Improved drinking water. If you got less, you got more deaths. Okay, these are deaths per 1,000. So it's a direct correlation. This isn't a mystery. It's right there. Next slide, please. Now, what doesn't work? If you go in, which we've been doing for years, and you give people a latrine, so now they don't get poop on their hands. They're segregating poop, all right? That you just keep people from touching it. By the way, diarrhea is caused from eating somebody's poop. Don't ever kid yourself with anything else. That's what it amounts to. You're going to get a bug, and it's going to come from a fecal material, from a mammal, E. coli, for example. It's only in mammals, and the reason they test for it is because it only lives for about 90 minutes outside the body. Okay? So if it's around, you're near something that's pretty fresh. Okay? Then, like the spinach that we were talking about yesterday, then people get sick all over the place. Well, that was E. coli. And sure enough, there's a cattle, we call it feedlot, right up the hill, and everybody was saying, well, it could be cattle. I don't know. Anyway, it was a cattle. So one of the things that you do to fix that is you keep the E. coli in a pit somewhere instead of out on the ground to where it's going to touch you. All right? So you build a latrine. So the French or USAID or Australia or the Japanese or the Chinese, somebody came in here and built these by the millions all over the world, and they're abandoned now. 30% of them now are full. What are you going to do with it? You don't have any water. This is where you live. You don't have any electricity. You've never seen a nail. You've never seen a block, cinder block. Now this thing's full. You can't move it. And it lasted anywhere, depends how many people are using it, anywhere between 1 and 5 years. Billions have been spent on this. It's broke. Same thing with water. Up here, that's an unimproved well. Nice water coming out. The second it hits that bowl, it's contaminated. I can tell that a guy is carrying this bowl on his head back to his house. It's the same guy that's pumping it because it's got a branch of leaves in it. He puts that in because the guys can't carry the bowls quite as steadily, and it keeps it from sloshing around. But you can imagine where he got that branch. This actually doesn't work. Now, this is a nice installation of what they call a standpipe. So there's some centralized pumping station in a small village, 2,000 people. There might be about 10 of these in that village, and you walk to that and get your water and go back home. Well, the reason it doesn't work in this picture, and I should have put the other one in it, is because this they charge you for it. It's not a nickel or less, but it's money. And that's a lot of money over there when you're making 200 even. If you turn and you look about 100 yards away, that's where the old bucket well was. It's still free. Guess where the line was? Right. And he's out here. It might look like he's getting water. He's actually the guy that takes care of it. They pay him to come out. So there's nobody over there. Next slide, please. How do you fix this? What does work? We've already wasted a lot of money, and now there's been a lot of studies, and they find, and you don't have to be able to read this, number one thing that reduces diarrhea and pneumonia and all the other water-related illnesses is to wash your hands. That's it. The next one is going to be sanitation, followed by clean water. It's way down here, which is kind of surprising. But it takes all three. And if you do all three at the same time in a village, where everybody's washing their hands, everybody's pooping where they're supposed to, and drinking good water, you're over 100% improved. They're not going to be sick. And the kids, when they go to school, are going to be much smarter too. Next slide, please. Another thing that fixes the number one saving material for children in the world since the beginning of anything has been oral rehydration solution. Now, oral rehydration solution is a way to put water back into your body when you have diarrhea, okay? And if you have diarrhea, or if you go outside and you get a little sick at home, all you need is a little bit of I'll show you how to clean this today. I used to be able to drink from the bottle. This is 6 teaspoons of sugar. Okay? And if everybody can get sugar, I mean palm sugar, I don't care what kind of sugar it is. And you're going to get 1 liter of water. Do this at home. Anytime you're outside, you get a little headache, a little sick. That's 6 teaspoons. I'll go down. And now you're going to put in a half teaspoon of salt. That's it. If you have a kid that is close to death, if you go to Haiti, 5,000 people have died from cholera, and over 1 million have caught it. None of those 5,000 people would die, unless they had something weird wrong with, if they were an infant or something that range. That's it. That's what saves most children on earth. Now they sell them little packets. The only thing you're missing is a little bit of potassium, so get a banana, okay, or a lime. Put some lime in there. It's kind of good stuff too. You know if you've added too much salt because it tastes saltier than your tears. So that's what we show people how to do. Next slide, please. Now this is how we do pictograms. This is a handout for showing people how to make oral rehydration solution. Every village we go to, we never leave without showing how to make this. It'd be almost a sin not to. Next slide, please. These are some of the people that we were showing in Peru. What other things work for cleaning water? I'm going to move on from the oral rehydration. Rainwater harvesting works. This is showing people how to use a spring box, which is capturing a small tiny bit of water on the side of a mountain in a cement box, collect it from the big cisterns further down the mountain, and there branch out to everybody's house. This is up on top of the Andes, absolutely gorgeous and beautiful people. And here we're talking to them about using sunlight to clean their water. How do you clean your water? Mike and I do this every place we go. Don't forget the people that are in remote areas, have cleaner water than you do. You don't go down to buy it and try to clean water and drink it, because there's too many chemicals here. But if you go to the outskirts of Peru or Togo or Cambodia, their water is actually, their dirty water is cleaner than ours. I mean, it's got the same amount of bacteria in it, but it doesn't have the chemicals in it yet, right? So you can go out there and you can get some dirty water, filter it through your shirt, take it out of a ditch someplace, any place you can find it. Put it in here. It's got to be clean enough to where you can see the lines of your hands, so it can be a little tea color. That's what I mean. Take this bottle after you cut the label off of it, put it on the roof in the bright sunlight for 6 hours. You now have clean water. 99.99. It's actually 4 nines. Everything's dead. Viruses, helminths, which are worms, and bacteria. 6 hours. The same UV rays that gives you a sunburn at the beach kills all the critters in the water. And that's what we use every place we go. We buy some fresh water from that, we just use whatever they got, and we clean it ourselves. And so we have about 10 bottles out there all the time. Kind of a hassle, but it works. And what we want to do with Nature Healing Nature is to show how simple this stuff is. So when we're educating people, which I'm going to come back to in a minute, it's that simple. We're not bringing anything with us. We tell them, go get a bottle, go get me some sugar, go get me some salt. And then we say, we don't touch anything. You never want to be the head honcho. Just do it all. Next slide, please. Oh, go back one. This is kind of cool. This is a committee. It is one good way to get water cleaned up. Get a bunch of women together, tell them you want to clean the water, yeah, show them how. And then make them sign a commitment to do that for like a year, and then they trade off. Well, the people don't know how to write, so they use their thumbprints with blood. And this is done in many, 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 many places, and that's how they sign the name. Next slide. Some of these things you can't imagine. Other things that work with water, you can make a ceramic filter, and people will put in businesses to make these things and sell them for about $10. This guy is painting this with a silver colloid material, which is, does a wonderful job on bacteria. This is what it looks like when it's set up. You've got to bring the government in. I don't care how you like them, you have to bring the government people in, because they're going to be there when you leave. Okay? It's very important. And these are the people we train, so that when we do leave, they can carry this on. We also teach the local NGOs how to do this activity. Here are 20 people from Funcodes and 3 from Care International. And we showed them how to do these very simple methods for water sanitation and hygiene. This woman, she's carried her bottle home that we gave her, and she just learned a few minutes ago how to clean her water with sunlight. Next slide, please. Another way to do it is to get a trash can, put some sand in the trash can, and notice the pipe comes out the bottom, and it goes up and it goes over. So when you pour water in, the water's got to go through the sand and then come up, right? Well, Mother Nature is so cool, that's why we've got this name, nature, human nature. For some reason, Mom Nature decided to make bacteria grow where it says the Schmuckschnecke, that's 13 centimeters deep. In 2 weeks, the good bacteria grows there. And the good bacteria will kill the bad bacteria, like the E. coli, as you're pouring it through. So 2 weeks after you start using this thing with dirty water, you can take water right out of the pond, mud if you want to, pour it through there, you get clean water coming out. Within 2 weeks, this thing is built. It's amazing how nature works for us. By the way, if you take some rusty nails and put them on the top, you get the arsenic out. Basic ferric arsenic, which is the particle which drops through and gets taken out. And, this is another thing. The cool thing about water, if you do nothing at all, but put some kind of cap on it, doesn't even have to be tight, it keeps the critters out. Don't drink it for 4 days. 87 to 93% of bacteria will die because they starve to death. Isn't that amazing? Self-cleaning. People think it gets rancid, but it doesn't. Next slide, please. First latrines, just to give you an idea of some of the work we do. We're in villages here where there's no such thing as a nail. The only metal that they have is on the end of the stave for hand plowing. It's kind of shaped like this. So they do everything by hand. The night before we told them we would come, they said, yeah, I want to build them. We'll show you how, but we don't touch it. They have to do it themselves. This is rope that they made the night before, so they're great. They're showing us how to do that too. It's kind of neat. This is their very first latrine here. Monica's helping them. It's made out of adobe and stone. When they get there, they say, what can we make one out of? We've heard about these things. Well, usually I find an excuse to be leaning against the house. And I'll say, well, what'd you make this out of? And they say, well, I'll give you out of that. I made out of this. Okay, let's make a latrine out of that. You show me how. Next slide, please. And they get pretty clever. It took about half a day to actually make the latrine right here. There's a little cover over the top. Take that off. So the pit's about 16 deep. About that big around. So it's hidden right here. But it was going to rain that day, and they didn't want it to mess up their adobe, which takes about a week to get hard. They had this superstructure up with that roof in 40 minutes. 40 minutes. They know how to do these things. Go ahead next. So they showed us how to build it. This is how to make soap. Monica and I make soap all the time. If you don't have soap, we show them how to use ashes. Ashes are very alkaline. Some of the Boy Scouts in here may have heard about that. So you just put ashes on your hands. It's going to kind of burn a little bit, but it's better than dying off. Next slide. This is what their soap looks like here. And it's made from ashes and any oil that they have. Palm oil, any kind of vegetable oil. We use castor oil sometimes, olive oil, coconut oil. These different oils, they make a different texture. So we use that and drain them. Next slide, please. Why isn't all that stuff working? Even though I just told you how to do all this. It just doesn't happen. We go into villages and come back 2 years later, and they're not built anymore. It takes behavior change, and that's tough. All of you were standing up 7,000 years ago. You folks are trying to come along, and a lot of people don't. There's some stubbornness going on. We grew outside, we're okay. Not really okay, but we don't know what else to do. And then if you show them, they may or may not do it. You gotta get the moms involved, that's for sure. The guys, they're not gonna care. This is our most difficult part, is behavior change. That's why when we walk into a place, we don't take anybody with us. Unless they're willing to do it, it's not gonna happen. Next slide. The approach that we take is similar to this. Now, if I were to do that to you, I make no promises, I just want to know how you live. And we'll talk. And maybe we have something to offer, maybe we don't. That's your introduction. And I'm not bringing any money or materials or property. You still want to talk. We've been to a lot of villages, thousands of people, they all say, yeah, okay. Okay. And when we leave, it's really fascinating because one of the chiefs, when he left, he was shaking our hands and he said, you know, I realize now it's not about being rich, it's about being clever. Next slide. These people are not destitute. Next slide. You accept their gratitude. Don't feel like, oh my gosh, that's their last guinea pig. That's what they're going to over there. Okay? That's improved. Eating. That's what they're giving you back. If you've ever been around somebody that's always giving you but not taking back, it's upsetting after a while. Take what they offer. Next slide. I believe there are students of heaven on earth. I think I touched them last night. From the people that were helping with the dinner, it was just breathtaking. Or when you cry at a wedding, or hold a little baby for the first time. There's something there that connects you to heaven right here on earth. What we do, what I do, I can feel that every once in a while. It happens very quickly, but it's there. I want to encourage you to deep down start to experience the same thing